cat's here, so you can go ahead and have it. I woke up Monday morning and it was this week. I'm like, oh my God, we're this week. Immediately wrote in and went, oh my God, I've done nothing.
Yes, and when we talked about it, at this point, they're determining the budget limit. So.
That's what used to be in that house justice history.
Good morning. Hi. I would like to call to order this meeting of the Public Arts Commission of the City of Palm Springs for Thursday, May 10th, 2018. And I would like to ask Ms. Henning to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brenner,
I'm here.
Commissioner Murray,
Present.
Commissioner Merrigan,
Present.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Present.
Commissioner Yanni,
Present.
Chair Shepherd.
Present.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda?
I will make a motion to accept this agenda for the Thursday, May 10th, 2018 meeting of the Palm Springs Public Arts Commission.
Thank you. We need a second?
Second.
Please, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. Okay. This is the time that has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Public Arts Commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time the item is heard by the Commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the Commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments, pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda, and 5 minutes is assigned for each speaker. So I believe we have some people who would like to speak. Once you come up, do we have another? Okay, we'll just do two. Very good. And please introduce yourselves and spell your names for the lady who takes
And
them.
please press the button on the thing so it turns green.
All right. My name is Zach Fleming, Z-A-C-H-F-L-E-M-I-N-G. I am the manager of school programs over at the Palm Springs Art Museum, and I'm here to talk a little bit about our art camp program that we have coming up in relation to public art.
I'm Sofia Enriquez, SOFIA-ENRIQUEZ, and I'm a muralist that's going to be working with the Palm Springs Art Museum on this project.
Very good. And I would like to say for the record that as a member of the board of the Palm Springs Art Museum, I will be recusing myself from any further discussion of this or votes on it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So this summer, it's an ongoing program that we do every summer. Is Palm Springs Art Museum's Art Camp. It's an opportunity to have students in ages 5 through 12 come to the museum and get a very in-depth hands-on experience with professional artists and art educators. This year we have a new program that we would like to offer our students, which is a mural class, and how to give the mechanics behind how a mural is created and kind of the purpose of what murals are for and how they enrich our public. And so we have invited Sophia to join us to help us not only create the design, but also to work with the students and get their input, because whatever they come up with will also be included into the overall design. And I'll let Sophia talk a little bit about kind of the idea behind the mural and kind of her background.
So I've actually worked with the museum last year for the summer camp, and I do have to say that it's probably the most fun thing that kids can do in the summer because they're just making art the entire time. So I came up with this design. Do you guys have it with you?
I think
Should we just show it just to kind of give you an idea of what we're working with and why I designed it, and what you guys are going to actually be looking at. So it's a full wall outside of the museum, and it's pretty low, and it's short enough for students to actually be able to walk up to it and work on it without having to use a ladder, which is something that, height has a lot to do with making murals. And this would be my about 20th mural that I'd be doing. So it'd be really cool to be able to work with students and show them how to start it and how to go about it. And the idea, the mural is called Las Tías, which is in reference to my aunts. So, and I kind of want to, show a little bit about my culture, and having the Paisleys on there has a lot of reference with, my culture and also a lot of other people's. And it's like something you see in fashion, something you see with people all around the world in their textiles and upholstery items. Thank you. And I wanted to show kind of like a variation of like different portraits. Like, it's not a very specific person, but they're just people. So I always kind of like to use that in my illustrations. And the paisleys would be created by the students. So when I would be teaching the class, they would all individually make their own paisleys, and then we would use that to put onto the mural. So they would actually be using their own designs onto the mural. So they're just as much a part of it as I would be. So, yeah.
And one of the things we really try to stress is collaboration with a lot of our projects, communication and critical thinking skills in terms of how you can put one of these together. And also Art Camp the main goal is to give the students an authentic art creation experience. So working with an actual artist, working on an actual mural would be a great opportunity for our students.
Can you just help me get oriented site-wise to this? So is this the wall that's on the side of the current parking garage
Yeah, so
facing south?
Yes, it's on the south end, kind of, I know that there was the Illuminaire house, the kind of that plot of land that it was just a temporary spot. Yeah,
It's really
short
So
wall.
it's just opposite the museum?
Yes,
Yeah.
right across the street from the museum,
Okay,
close
okay.
proximity.
Not where the park's gonna be?
No,
Okay,
opposite
okay, got it.
end.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
southern end.
Right, there's below grade.
Just so
Red
behind
Harbor.
this is where the pit is?
Is exactly.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Or, here,
Yeah,
it's,
it's
we only have
east-
one
east
for
of
the.
it.
So it's actually this wall right
This wall here. It's like where,
Okay.
So
yeah,
the face of the wall faces north.
so the pit's here, it's this little pony.
Oh, I see,
Right.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But on the mock-up, you showed running just that one length. There's the other little section. Will you also include that as part of the mural?
I think, we can if we really want to, and if we have enough space, I'm sure we can totally do it.
Well,
We'll
yeah,
cover
'cause that-
whatever.
Yeah, because that way the whole wall would be
Yeah.
completed.
There's
Yeah.
also a little tiny portion in the front. It's like kind of short, so it would be cool to kind of incorporate that part.
Yeah, I would recommend doing it. Do
Okay.
it all.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, we're at,
Oh, we're at five. are we
Mr.
at
Vice
5
Chair, we're at
minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay.
But if, yeah. We're not allowed to comment on the public comments, is my
Got it.
understanding. But, yeah.
Yes, we will be back next month.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
for
Thank you for
sharing
taking the
this.
time.
Cool.
We look forward to discussing it more
Certainly.
at our next meeting.
Same here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other people that would like to speak in public comments? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of April 12th, 2018. May I have a motion? Commissioner Yanni, since you're so,
I wasn't here.
oh, you weren't here. Okay, someone who was here.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the Thursday, April 12th, 2018 regular Public Arts Commission meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
I
Thank you. Okay. There being no presentations or new business today, we go to the first item of unfinished business, which is for us to review and approve the 2018-19 public arts budget. Now, if you look in your packet, it's right after the minutes. And it's in very general terms. I will note that as we go on in the meeting, I know that various subcommittees have requests or recommendations for what they will request for next year for various programs. And if you look at the section artwork, procurement, and programs, the $264,000 would be what we would be drawing on for temporary art, the 30th anniversary celebration, the downtown park. And since all of those are just in the planning stages, it's just lumped into one sum. The $50,000 for the Palm Springs Art Museum has been put there by the council, but it's been suggested that we separately approve that as part of our budget. And I would like someone to propose that because, again, as a member of the board of the Art Museum, I will recuse myself on that vote. So if someone would just,
So this is just approving the one item.
that it's in our
That
budget,
it's
and
in
then
our
we'll do the
budget.
rest of the budget.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah, so I'll make that motion that the Public Arts Commission continue to fund the $50,000 grant to the Public Art Museum as it has in many years prior.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain.
Madam Chairman, for the record, I'd like to recuse also as a public, Photography Collection Council
Mm.
board member at the museum.
Okay. But we still have 4 votes, so the motion
Do we have, do you want to do a
passes.
voice vote?
A roll call.
A roll-
Sure.
All right, so the motion is to approve the $50,000 funding line item for the Palm Springs Art Museum for the fiscal year 2018-19. Is that okay, Tom?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Merrigan? Commissioner Brenner?
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard?
Aye.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Motion passes. Commissioner Murray and Commissioner Sheffer are recused due to their membership at the museum.
Exactly. All right, thank you. Now, we've been asked to vote on this, sending this as our budget request. The council's in the process of determining the budget. I think the vote is in early June, but they are asking each commission or fund to, and if there are any other discussion of this, this would be a time to do it. But again, remember that this is just a very general budget. It's because we haven't really broken down what our programs will be. So, but if there are no other questions or thoughts, then,
I have one question.
Yeah.
I guess. So are we basing this, I mean, the figures look similar, except for, so are we basing this basically on last year's budget?
I believe that's what they do. And the part of what our revenues will be is always just an educated guess. And I'm not sure what the latest is. The last time I looked at it, we had received about 110,000 of 180,000 that
I believe
we
that's
expected.
correct. And if you look at the third line down on the far right-hand side, that's the educated guess made for $180,000 of new revenue for next year. Keeping in mind there are various projects and various stages that may or may not put in requests for having art fee reimbursements. So we will be working with them as much and as closely as we can to find out their intentions.
But we don't know if any, there's none at the moment that we're like expecting at any moment to come down the pike.
That's correct. But I suppose we could report out as we do learn, and it wouldn't be an official until they actually make the
Right,
request.
but that would be
Right.
helpful to
Okay.
know what we should be sort of saving, right? So, may I have a second to the motion that we approve this budget request?
Madam Chair, I'll make a second, but I would like to have a question, just a clarification, in that what we're voting on is sort of the general but not specific, the line items could change.
Yes.
So
I
basically,
mean, for
we're-
example, artwork, maintenance, materials, and supplies will break down to a lot of different things. But this is, again, sort of based on what we've spent in previous years. So for the purposes of budgeting, the important things are what the finance department believes will be the balance at the end of this year, which is June 30th, what they think will come in, and then that determines what we hypothetically could spend, assuming that that much comes in and that it's not tied to a project that's going to ask for reimbursement. So over the course of the year, we've moved things around in budgets. And we're a teeny tiny bit of the like $200 million budget they're voting on, so they're happy with these sort of general.
Commissioner Brenner, if you turn the sheet over, there's line items, so
Right,
breaks it down more specifically.
right.
Thank
But
you.
even those, we've, in the past,
They're
spent more on
estimates,
certain
right.
things than others. Okay, so Commissioner Brenner has seconded my motion that we approve this budget. And so, do we need a roll call vote? I think
Could you state your motion one more time, please? Just for the record.
I move that we approve submitting this budget as our request to the city council.
For fiscal year 18-19.
Yes. For Fund 150.
Do we need a second again, or no?
And I seconded,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
All right, I'll do a roll call. I'm Commissioner Merrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brenner,
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray.
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni,
Yes.
Chair Shepherd.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Now, before we leave the topic of budget, we've been talking about the possibility of needing to reimburse developers, as we did with Grit Development, which, by the way, has been a terrific hit with the public. It's great. Everyone seems to like it. We have plans in the works to do something in the downtown park. We have this 30th anniversary planned, and some plans for temporary art installations, all of which will be discussed later in the meeting. But because of the sort of growing amount of funds that we would like to use towards artwork, rather than the kinds of some of the programs we've done in the past, I would like to move that we formally request of the City Council that they find a way to pay our personnel costs outside of our budget. We are the only commission or department in the city whose personnel costs come out of their program budget. And since the purpose of this fund is to create public art either through developers or through the city itself, and we seem to have developed a much more ambitious agenda. So I would like to move that we formally make that request, that they find another way to fund our personnel costs, which would free up more money for the programs. Would someone like to second
So how
it?
does that work? So we can just,
We're just requesting.
We're requesting the city manager to present it to the city, or to the city council?
Or the city council budget subcommittee to just take it into consideration. We're just asking them to consider this.
I think it's responsible because, if every developer that paid in wanted all of their money back, then we would have no money, and then how would we pay a staff person?
Right.
And it doesn't really say in that resolution that, it's supposed to go towards staffing or,
Right.
I think it's responsible, like if you work for the city, then the city should pay you.
And there are lots of other fees that developers pay for all kinds of building permits and things. But the building staff and the planning staff are not paid specifically out of what comes in. The department is funded by the city and all of the staff. So this is just, it's simply a request that this be considered. And I think with our comments of why we think that's important, does anyone else want to just give their opinion of this course of action?
Well, I would just echo the sentiment that the arts budget should be spent on programming, art installations, public art, and that the personnel budget should come from city revenue source or the main city budget.
All right.
Yeah, I echo the same, I mean, I think it can't hurt to ask, right? So,
Exactly.
So if they're willing to discuss it, I think that that we should definitely make that request.
Very good. The form of the motion is that we request that the city consider other funds to pay for personnel rather than out of the Public Arts Fund.
I'll second that motion. If it hasn't been seconded, I'll second the
Okay,
motion.
very good. Do we want a roll call vote on this? Sure, since it's about the budget, okay?
Okay, Commissioner Merrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brenner.
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray,
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni,
Yes.
Chair Sheffer.
Yes. Great, thank you. All right, I think it's very, very worthwhile to at least pass this on as our, okay. The next thing on the budget is a report from the Sites and Installation Subcommittee about the installation by Michael Bernberg downtown. So Commissioner Pritchard, please bring us this update.
All right, thank you, Chair Sheffer. Yes, the installation, Michael Bernberg on the Grit Art Pit movement moment change is moving forward. It's in contract.
It's moving, yes.
Moving forward.
It's changing.
But the development after our initial commission for the art piece and the budget of $20,500, the city has requested engineering for the installation. An initial budget that Michael has received, it comes in at $4,800. We do have a possibility of discussing change of location for the installation, so the engineering fee may lower and or may disappear. But as it stands now, with this pending, I wanted to propose that we make an additional funding request of up to $5,000 to cover any engineering for the Michael Bernberg piece.
Since we are purchasing it.
So this means like installation, moving
That was
it,
already included.
Yeah,
This is just a report from an engineer
Yeah.
about whether it's,
like
going to
the
with,
wind
right,
speed
right.
and all that
At the
stuff.
moment, it's in the pit, so
Right.
we're not sure about the wind, but
Right.
it is supposed to be on like 10 foot, it's like 10 feet off
Right,
the
I
ground.
see.
right, so in total, it would rise 20 feet off the ground. Initially, we didn't realize engineering would be such an issue, being that it's an installation which we're purchasing and putting on private property. But the City Code Enforcement Department requested the engineering report, and Michael Bernberg did reach out to a few engineering firms, and this is, although it seems high on my side, this is the best budget that he's received, or estimate that he's received for engineering. If we do determine over the next course of a couple of months in our meetings or discussions that we change the location for the installation, which of course we would have to vote on, then the engineering fee would be less, but the cap for the expenditure, if we move forward with going on Grit Art Pit, would be $4,800, so capping it at $5,000.
So why
the
would it go
request.
down? Because it would be on city property or something?
No, because if it weren't so high up and, if there was a way to do it on the ground instead of in the pit, you wouldn't need these big supports for it to make
Yeah,
it that
the
high.
engineering and structural would be less.
So it
I
might
see.
not even need engineering if it's just sitting on the ground.
I
It
see.
just need to be installed, which is what his proposal had. It had, he's paying for the installation and everything else, but they, right now, they looked at it and said, oh my God, you have to
Yeah.
get this.
Yeah, originally, I think we capped the height of the support structure as 3 feet,
Yeah.
and then we upped it to 10 feet when we developed the plan for it to be in the art pit. So
Oh, I
if the
didn't
location
realize that.
changes, then it would drop back to that being a 2 to 3 feet elevation off
here.
the ground.
Right, exactly. And it's possible that this engineer is the one who can recommend how to install it with much less.
Yeah.
So, would you like to
So I'm
make
still
that
not clear, so
statement?
we're just voting on funding
The
this
engineering report,
report.
right.
Yes, so my
If-
proposal or request is that we, as the Arts Commission, fund up to $5,000 to cover any engineering cost for the Michael Bernberg installation.
Because
But
this-
that, I'm still confused, right? But I mean, I thought the installation costs were originally in the proposal.
the
right?
costs
So
are,
this
but
is
the city is requiring that an outside engineer
do
report.
an assessment.
An
right.
assessment.
So
and
that's what this is about,
Right.
just an assessment.
Yeah,
Just
this
an
is-
assessment,
This
right.
is a request that came specific from the building code and enforcement that was unexpected
Okay.
and unbudgeted for.
So it's not a request, it's a requirement by the building department.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
Yes.
won't go
this
One thing
forward
is, hey,
without
we
it.
think you need this, and
Right.
another
Right.
is, I'm sorry, you don't get to go forward unless you do this.
And that's,
Okay.
that's what it is. So I think what Commissioner Pritchard is requesting, that the commission authorize up to $5,000 to pay for such report if in fact this is the one and this is the cost, but up to $5,000.
Exactly.
But at the moment, we're still talking in the pit
With
for
the
up to
40
18 months.
Right, with the
Right.
$4,800 engineering report.
Right.
But, yes. Yeah.
And then, so last meeting, did we talk about moving it again or not? Or where,
I
how
think
did
we'll-
that?
We would put that
No.
on the agenda for next meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Because
We were
it's
just-
subject to a few
right.
unknown things at the moment.
Well, and
Okay.
what happened is that when this request for this pretty extensive engineering report came up, it's because of how high it was going to be. So one way to mitigate the need for the report and maybe is to find a different location. So we'll ask Commissioner Pritchard to tell us next month. But I would like to second his motion that we approve an expenditure up to $5,000 as needed for this report.
I just feel like, do we have any assurances, like, that there's no more of these things coming up? Or
I could pretty much guarantee that about 95%, but the other 5% is the unknown of the city agencies.
Do
But
you-
no, this is it. This is, we just need this engineering report. If we were to move forward with this installation in the grit art pit, then we're done.
I see. So Jennifer, Jay, any city insight on this? What's your sense? I mean, just having been through these, I mean, do you have a sense of, are we at the end of the process here, or do you think there could be other?
Well, this would be a required expenditure
Right.
to move the project forward, but it would be wise to really scour the coming approvals to see if there might be other unexpected requirements.
Well, I
such as
think
that.
that what we're talking about is the building department likely to come back with anything else? Or is this included in, I mean, is an engineering report going to satisfy the requirements?
Well, we have building department reviews. I think we've cleared planning, that was administrative. I don't know if it will be referred to fire or any other life safety type of departments for review. So that's where we may want to maybe check back with building and see if they can anticipate anything in addition to it.
Do you want to amend it to say that we would authorize payment of any required reports by the city for the installation of this one piece?
Up to the same amount.
Or, you know,
I just feel like it's getting a lot more expensive than we thought.
well, but we have no one
right.
to really point a finger at but the city itself. So
No, I understand that, I just.
Well,
it's-
I think I would be comfortable, and Michael Bernberg probably would be as well, if we just say we want to approve an expenditure up to $5,000 to cover the current required engineering report from the city and/or anything else that the city may require before its installation.
I'd like
I
to
have
get
another
more
question.
input.
I have another question from what Jay just said. So he said this is required to move forward totally, even if people change the space, change where it goes.
Oh, no. If the engineering requirements change, and I believe Commissioner Pritchard has done this research, that the work that the engineering firm has to do may be reduced if there's not as many, say, physical factors to consider with what may happen to the sculpture piece.
And we sort of anticipate that it will be the direction, the change of location, but we can't really.
So do we
do it.
have to approve this or wait till?
We have to approve the possibility that the city will require an
Any
engineering report.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there will be.
At first, we thought, okay, this is a piece of sculpture, we've done this before. But it turns out that because of where it is and the height, the city feels that they should have a full engineering report. However, if we find a place to put it on level ground, the specifications that are in Michael Bernberg's proposal may be enough. He is having it installed by people who know how to do this, and that may be acceptable. But all of a sudden, it turned into a much more complicated thing. So.
But so now we're approving the piece, but not
No,
the
we've
location, or-
we've already bought the piece.
We
But
did.
he went to get his permits, and they said, oh, you need
Okay.
to spend $4,800. And I don't think he should have to spend that,
Right.
especially out of a $20,000 purchase. I mean, it's not his doing.
Right.
And it was kind of a late breaking
Addition,
addition,
yeah.
right?
So
Just-
Commissioner Brenner? No, I just feel like this is a pretty,
Yeah, no, I mean,
I just want to make sure everyone has. a
yeah,
voice.
no, I am going to support this, but I am gonna make the caveat of I do feel in the future that a person that represents that they're going to install something needs to have done the background work. And we're learning as we're going along, but I would expect in the future that person to have done that homework, so when they come in with the proposal, because the idea, and I feel just like you, if he walks in and goes, oh, I didn't know about this, and now this comes up, we're all gonna start looking, and I don't think that's gonna happen, but that's,
It could happen, though, with the installation, like that cost could really change also.
well, as far as I'm concerned, we've already agreed what the installation
Right.
cost is.
He's
That
not
was in the
coming back
proposal that he
for
gave,
that.
so,
Right, okay.
And he did, his first 5 or 6 conversations with the planning and building departments, no one mentioned this. And then all of a sudden, someone decided to err on the side of caution and require this. And I simply don't think that he did get estimates for installation. He proposed what he was going to do, and we approved it. And this has just sort of come out of left field, and it's,
And I
but we
would- and I
can't move
liked-
without it.
Yes, and I like where we decided it was going, so I don't want to move it. I think it was designed with the idea in mind, so I don't want the idea of, oh, well, let's go look for another site, so.
Well, I think it was designed to not be on that high of supports.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
'cause
everything we
Right.
originally saw
Right.
was much closer to the
Right.
ground, so.
And we liked the site, but
But it-
because of the site and what he had to change, this has created this. So yes, I will support it, and just again, that caveat of, for the future, it's just something to be conscious of, questions to ask in the beginning, so we're not surprised later on. So, yeah.
And maybe we can have some discussion with the building department. If we're planning
Like
to do a
like
series
punch
of
list kind of
things,
thing,
right.
So
Yeah,
Commissioner
we-
Murray, I'd like to have your input.
Is there any way that, well, in the future, hopefully this is something that can be waived? I don't know why I'm saying that.
Nice,
It's
nice
a lot of
thought.
money.
We've talked about refunding mural
Right.
fees, which
Exactly.
we could do out of our budget. I'm not sure that we have any influence with the building department to say that they shouldn't charge it. We are in effect waiving it because we're going to pick it up as part of the cost of the project.
Yeah, but certainly moving forward, it's something that we will have in the forefront of our minds. And as we start to discuss the temporary art installations that we're going to do on the Virgin Hotel site, then part of what we're going to propose will factor in fees like this will be in the budget, and there will be, if we move forward, there will be a responsible entity with the budget that we set to cover everything.
So are you leaning towards going for it? What's your gut?
Well, I think we should go forward. It would have been nice to have known this beforehand.
I agree.
We thought everything was paid for. Do you think we should, my last point, raise that to at least $6,000 in case something else comes up? No? Okay. No, that's all.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because I've had lengthy discussions with the artist Michael Bernberg on this, and it was something that I took issue with him when this came up. It's also, didn't you think about this in your budgeting process as well? 'Cause it's when I've worked with artists for installations in the past, this is factored into it and tried to make it just not come to be, but I think it's just the right thing for us to do.
So my sense is everyone's willing to go forward, is that?
I think we should really seriously think of moving it to maybe this location.
I'm
Because
sorry,
I think it
didn't
would
hear
look
that last
better,
part.
personally.
I didn't hear the
Maybe
last-
move it
And be
to
cheaper.
here,
Oh, to be cheap.
Yeah.
up above ground.
I see.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would look better.
Well, and when this started, the plans for the park had not, they hadn't submitted their final plans to the city council. Russell and I are the two commissioners on a sort of sounding board committee with people from the Parks Department and the Planning Commission, and for the architects to talk about their plans. And we did attend one meeting, which we will report on at the very end, but it appears that this section of land, which is referred to as the art park, is going to be a later phase of development because there's a lot of additions to the other side of the park that they would like to spend the money on now. So,
On the north side of Museum
right.
Way.
So on the south side, this little section where the mural may be, and it hasn't been formally decided, but the current thought is that it would be covered with sod, and that the park architects would take that on as their second. So perhaps a year or two while they finish the other side of the park. So this was not really available as a possible site, but now it might be. And so that's...
And we had talked originally about putting his piece on that Virgin Hotel site, which was
Right.
above grade.
Right, though that has
Originally when you
a
Right.
lot of
proposed
stuff on it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it has a lot of,
Where he was like closing all the boxes and he was
Mhm.
gonna make that available.
Well, yeah, we
Before
may
this
have
whole
addressed
pit
that in
thing.
the initial stage, but being that we weren't going to get possession of the Virgin site until, it's still a couple of months away, I think we just shifted our focus onto the grid art because it was immediate.
Yeah.
And the art park part of the downtown park was the complete unknown.
right. But it may have moved enough that we could put something there temporarily, so.
So what would be the process to decide that? How
Well,
Is that
that's
city
got to
land?
come back.
That's city
right.
land, is that
Yeah.
right? Then it moves from private property to city property, is that correct?
What, this is jumping ahead in the agenda, but
No,
just
are
to,
we
just to
set?
put it in context,
Yeah,
the subcommittee on the downtown park, which is Commissioner Pritchard and me, is meeting with the downtown park architects next Monday to find out if in fact that is the plan and if they would approve of us doing something like this mural or putting something like this piece there. So this is the first time we've had a chance to talk to them. We're also going to talk to them about what the Public Arts Commission could put into the main part of the park. So we'll have, by next month, probably have some proposal, at least what the next step is.
So do we have to decide where it goes right now?
no, we just have to agree to pay the engineering fee.
Right, which could go down, way down if we decide
That's
to
right.
move it above
So that's why
ground.
we're saying up to $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that, because I do agree, that's how we talked about it at the very beginning, before the pit.
Well, I've shown
And if it's gonna be
people-
sitting there empty to some years,
Well,
it's
yeah,
just
it's
as,
also-
it sort of works just as well, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
for me, the way it's playing out now, if we do have access to the auxiliary art park part of the downtown park, especially now with the Sophia Enriquez mural program covering the wall that surrounds the site, Michael Burdenberg's piece situated in front, sort of announcing that in all of this area, the great change is happening. And Michael Braun is still moving forward with bringing the babies into the Grit Art Pit. And then we move forward with the art installations on the Virgin Hotel site. It creates that
Be
wonderful
very.
flow.
So I think what this discussion is leading to is that we're asking Commissioner Pritchard, as the contact with Michael Bernberg, to explore these options. Several commissioners have said they like the idea of it being on the art park, and that at the next meeting, if it is going to move, and if you can report that as a result, we didn't have to spend as much on engineering, we can just approve that. And I imagine that if we put it on the art park, at some point, we will need the city council's approval. So at that point, we will know if we would like to just request it to be there. But again, it's part of the park, so the first step is talking to the park architects, and then, okay, so the motion on the floor is to authorize up to $5,000 to pay an engineering report for this project if need be. And who seconded? Did someone second? Okay. Commissioner Pritchard, since it's your committee, why don't you,
Do you want to second it?
that we
I didn't
authorize
make, I
up,
didn't make the motion.
Okay.
no.
Oh, did you
Okay,
make the motion?
okay, then I'll second it.
I thought I made the
Okay.
motion.
Commissioner Pritchard has moved that we authorize up to $5,000 for an engineering report on Michael Bernberg's piece as needed. So all
we
in
need
favor?
to
We need, I
voice
don't think we,
vote or
this is, do we
individual
want to
vote?
voice?
So Anne, you just made that motion?
No,
and
I was,
Russell-
no, I was
So who-
She was-
repeating
she
his
was-
motion.
She was reiterating that I made the motion.
Okay,
right.
so who's seconding the motion?
And
Aye. Okay, and since it's an expenditure of funds, why don't we do a roll call vote?
Okay, Commissioner Merrigan,
Aye.
Commissioner Brenner.
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard,
I,
Commissioner Murray. Commissioner Yanni.
Yes.
Chair Sheffer.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, before we move on to the next one, I think we should note that in the same way that the first mural under the new mural ordinance, which was at Desert Regional, was kind of a guinea pig, like what are the steps, how do we meet all the deadlines and things. I think we can consider Michael Bernberg's piece, and it's probably just as well that we have one piece where all these possible changes came, and so going forward, we should know what boxes need to be checked a lot better. But now we move to making a recommendation on the Jump for Joy mural, and I'm hoping that we are past the guinea pig stage, and we have a representative from the Palm Springs Cultural Center. We discussed it at length at the last meeting. The information is enclosed again, and we can certainly discuss it to the extent that we need to, but I would like to propose this resolution of the Palm Springs Arts Commission of the City of Palm Springs, California, approving an art mural application by Palm Springs Cultural Center for a mural on the commercial building at 2300 East Baristo Road. And I would like a second for that, and
I
then we
will
can
second
discuss
that.
it. Does anyone have any questions of Miriam about just, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook and Instagram some of the pictures of the artist getting ready to install it, and along the way, a lot of people whose picture was taken for the project, those have been posted, and they are all jumping for joy. It's rather fun.
So I just had a question. I
Yes.
just had a question. So on the application that I'm looking at here, the copy, it says that the mailing thing was pending, but that's already been done because I got one.
It does,
in
because
the
I
mail.
got one, right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been
Okay,
done.
So some of those things have happened.
Yeah.
Right.
All done.
I apologize, I was not at the last meeting.
Oh.
And so if you could just give me like a 2-minute update on what's happened since then, I would, you know, it's, will be more interesting than reading it through the minutes.
You didn't watch it?
Oh, yes, I did.
We do a live Facebook
I
feed
must have
daily.
forgotten about that.
Okay, so here's the 2-minute update.
Thank
Eola Baker has now been here for almost 4 months. She's taken about 300 photographs, actually many more. We've narrowed it down. We've curated about 300 photographs of people throughout the Coachella Valley, and quite literally from homeless to, you know, the country club set and everyone in between. It has been such a remarkably beautiful project. Eola does a blog with every person who participates, and people talk about what brings them joy. So the photograph stage is now over. We've curated the photos, we've printed out all the photos, and the mural has begun. So now we laugh that it's our turn to jump for joy because we're so excited as we're there at like 5 in the morning to beat the heat, and we're giddy with excitement. It looks absolutely incredible. Each photograph really is remarkable, and there's a story behind each photograph that really is quite beautiful. We're planning a celebration and an official unveiling on the 19th, which of course you're all invited to.
May.
The entire community is
May
invited
19th.
to. May 19th. Saturday, Eola will start with an artist talk, so we'll gather inside in Theater 3 of the Cultural Center, and Eola will talk for about an hour about her experience here and the people that she's met. And we really are very excited to gather all of these people who otherwise would never have met all together with the rest of the community, and really celebrate the artwork, but celebrate the people behind the artwork and use it as sort of a facilitator to gather the community together. So please, you know, we look forward to seeing you there.
So
What
so
time?
it's, oh, sorry.
12 noon, gathering in Theater 3 of the community center, and then 1 o'clock will be outside ribbon cutting, unveiling, and celebration.
Great. So it's actually being, it's already under construction or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Were you not supposed to hear that?
No.
But the one thing I thought
I
was
just
very
haven't
interesting
been-
that you talked about last time, there was Commissioner Gladstone had talked about papers and things like
Right,
that,
right.
and they had done a very
Yeah.
extensive testing of different papers and how was it going to stand up to the light and all that. So that's what I thought was
Papers
very
and adhesives.
Yes.
And graffiti coating and UV coating. And we were working with an amazing printer who's given us a lot of sage advice. And of course, you know, this is a Canadian artist. She's done murals before, but not in this kind of heat. The cinder block is hot in the morning. It's always chalky and sandy. And of course, by about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, especially this week, just blazing heat. So we actually learned a lot. I don't know if that will ever come in handy for any other muralist in the city, but we really have learned a lot. And we're confident that we were using the right materials, and it looks spectacular.
Great. So then my last question, is just, I would just like to know how you found the process with our new mural thing, if there's any advice that you might offer.
I have a public art background, so even listening to your conversation this meeting, I can relate to everything that you're saying. Expect the unexpected. That always happens. I will say everyone that I have dealt with in planning, and I've been there a lot,
They have been extremely helpful and very kind and have offered a lot of advice. If I can give you one bit of feedback, I think it was the written material that was complicated in terms of what was required for the application, the timelines. There was a bit of a hiccup with the timeline of the public consultation. I think that's why we're here tonight.
Is that the letter thing?
The letter, exactly. And it was, being new to the city, I didn't know who to go to, so there was a bit of time that was wasted there. But as I say, I think if the written materials were a little bit more clear, it would have been pretty much smooth sailing. Everyone certainly had the right intentions.
Right.
in
And you
planning.
felt like the process was, correct, no, but I'm just, right. But I mean, you felt like the process was laid out for you, that people were available to tell you what you needed to do.
Yes,
along the way.
absolutely. And I come from a much larger city. The fact that I actually left a voicemail for your head city planner and he called me within an hour was astonishing. I would have waited 6 months in Vancouver. So that was great. The odd thing to me, just again because I come from a different city, was that the public consultation happened before approval. So that, you had to go to that expense and that time and energy before it was actually approved. That seemed a little counterintuitive.
I see. Right.
Yeah. In Vancouver, you actually get approval, I guess pending public comments.
Right.
But you get approval from your Arts Commission first, and then, okay, let's now go to the public.
Right. Seek input, whatever.
But
So,
we all,
and that's what I missed. I wasn't ready with the public consultation part when I put in my application.
well, and of course, the planning and building sections, there's not a commission that approves those, but the requirements of the application.
Right.
And I should mention, I've requested that this resolution be on the city council agenda for May 16th on their consent agenda, which is how we've agreed to do it. So barring any, comments there, but in general, or was it the one last? It's on the 16th. Apparently, the last mural that we put on the agenda of the city council, on the consent agenda, one of the council members pulled it off so that they could comment how excited they were that there was a new mural process. But there's, unless a council member or a member of the public has some issue with the process, they are just the last sign-off. So that will be on the 16th. Anything else for approving this resolution so that it can go to the council?
Can I just ask one question? Did you end up changing the glue from what she originally said she used, like a wheat glue?
Yeah, she's not using the materials that she used in Vancouver at all.
Yeah.
The wall here is much nicer than what she's used to, and it's not wet and moldy and pitted, but it's dry and hot.
Be careful what
yeah.
you wish for, right?
No,
Yeah.
for sure. So yeah, this is a new process for her. And I think it was one of the members of this commission that suggested that we do a test well in advance, and that was very
Might
good
have been
advice.
Mara,
We learned a
yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you. Everybody comfortable
Madam Chair,
with-
do you need a motion?
It was already
A
made.
second. I made the motion.
Okay, I
that we
second the
approve-
motion.
That we approve the resolution approving the mural at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, item D5 in our agenda. I think
Thank you
this.
so much for coming. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for all of your support. It really is very appreciated.
Well, it's
Thank
quite
you.
exciting. It's fun.
Looking forward to it.
I think this one, we can just have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it looks so cool.
Fun.
Have you seen it? Or just seen it on Facebook?
Just on Facebook.
Okay. Now, the next thing is we have 4 subcommittee reports, all of which are projects, they're reports on the status of ongoing planning. So I would suggest that we get an update from each committee, but not get into a discussion too much of the particular plans. But that by the next meeting, hopefully, some of these will have come to the point where there's something to vote on. But I think we could, especially with the 30th anniversary, we could sort of get into the weeds with this, all the different possibilities.
Food truck, no food truck.
Right, so I think, so if anyone has questions, certainly, or suggestions, we should do it, but let's try not to do all the details right now. So the first one is on the temporary public art installations in Block F, and Commissioner Pritchard, do you want to bring us up to date on?
Certainly. I'll just give you layouts in general terms, the direction that we're going. Commissioner Yanni and Commissioner Gladstone and I met as the ad hoc subcommittee about a month ago. And then had the fortunate, because we've in discussion, we're looking at the site. Possession is probably going to be August or September, waiting for the lockdown on the date from Grit Development, Michael Braun. But we talked in general terms of having use of the site for 12 to 18 months, doing up to approximately 3 to 4 installations of temporary art, either site-specific and or working with artists who already have existing art that would keep a better price point on installing something. And then working with existing elements of the site, which are concrete footings and partial walls, to have that being part of a mural, colorful paint sort of component of the site. We talked about the two ways of doing it, us orchestrating all of the elements to the project, and then also talk about the possibility of engaging Warren Brand of Branded Arts as a consultant, laying out what the budget is and having him manage, supervise, with our approval and direction, the installation period for the site, just for a smoother process. So we're basically waiting for lockdown on the possession date, and then Commissioner Yanni and Commissioner Gladstone and I will meet again prior to our June meeting and come up with this very specific proposal and a budget amount.
Yeah,
Very
I just
good.
want to add on, we talked about also some sort of lower intensity, high impact things, right? We mentioned, because just as we had met, of course, there were the Palm Springs Art Museum fence liners that went up all over for the Warhol
The
exhibition.
pink.
Yeah, the pink liners and the Warhol things, whatever. And so we talked about, just doing something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we're working with a local artist, but again, like on a more temporary, lower budget, lower impact type of things, and just as a way of like keeping the site kind of activated up until it's finally finished. So that was one other thing that we talked about.
Yeah, one possibility is we may do a two-part function to this. We do like a first stage of painting on some of the walls of the concrete footings and one installation, and then sort of roll into another, make it sort of organic so that it's an ongoing thing. So over the process or the period of time of 12 to 18 months, general public will see change and excitement for the whole period rather than just it gets set up and then remains static.
I think that's one thing to keep in mind on how long we've been dealing with the Michael Birnbaum sculpture
Right.
is really, I'm sure that you're keeping that as an example of like wanting to do more, but
Yeah, but at a
accomplish
lower,
more.
right, at
Yeah.
a lower intensity
Well,
level. Right?
and I think the idea of contracting with someone like Branded Arts, who's done public art projects in a lot of cities, is that you build into the contract, they're responsible for the permitting and the
Engineering report.
engineering reports and whatever it is, because they have a lot of experience with it. But I think it would cut down on the surprises if we had someone.
Well, yeah, and also part of the thought process of working with someone like Warren Brand is he has such a global reach. So we, of course, want to focus first on Coachella Valley artists and local artists, but integrating perhaps some artists that have more of a national presence or perhaps a global presence to work with local to make it a more global concept.
It sounds great. I'd like to suggest that we put it on the agenda for next month, and that if you can get a proposal to Jennifer a week ahead, it could go out with the agenda, or at least the basic terms, maybe not the entire contract, because that will have to be written with the city, but just basically what the process would be. And we could try to vote on it then. Great. So rolling right into Commissioner Merrigan's report on the subcommittee for this 30th anniversary celebration. And if in your packet is a memo that they prepared, looks like this, that has sort of an overview. You want to just run through it quickly?
Yeah, so I was just calling it a like a preliminary framework. So, so we've met with a few people, and since I wrote this up, actually, I got some more information that I will add, maybe add when, either for next month or just explore with you guys. So, what Russell is saying about getting this piece of the Virgin Park, I wonder if you'll if that will be available to be used like for October 11th. Like maybe we should, if we're going to put the Bernberg piece in, you know, maybe we should try to create some kind of synergy with that. Just to think down
for
the
that,
road. Yeah.
just for the celebration. I notice at the end here you talk about the pros and cons of asking the city to close the street on a Thursday night, but it's if this celebration could take place on this art park section, if in fact we end up being able to use it, that might be just as good as closing the whole street. Though I understand that when they did the Warhol project for kids, that they lined the street with tables for kids to work, and it was. I think that the committee probably needs to talk to someone in the city, perhaps Marcus Fuller or someone, about through Jay also their feeling about closing the street. Well, before we got planning on it, just.
Yeah, I'm not planning on
Yeah.
it. So I have reached out a couple of times, so, and what I've gotten without writing everything down, like we need to do a drawing and be more specific, is that, and feedback I've gotten from other people is, you know, if we're gonna do like so the pros and cons are, it's October 11th. It is street fair. The museum is our museum free, and we do the proclamation. If we do an event, the time you'd think would be like 2 to 6 or something, when you can get people off work. It's later in the day. If you're going to get permission to close the street, I've been told that it's easier to get it done or approved if it's before street fair. So that means you'd have to close and pack up the whole festival idea before 4 o'clock, so they could reopen the street before they close down the streets for the street fair. So I had said, what if we do like till 6 o'clock and then just leave the street closed? Like then we wrap up, break down by 7, leave the street closed until street fair's over, and then they just reopen when they reopen everything, right? Mm-hmm. So that didn't seem like that's maybe necessarily a good idea, but I have to write it all down and do it officially.
So that feedback is coming from whom? From the Village Fest people, or the?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so other people have said, well, why are you gonna do like a festival thing on a Thursday afternoon, like people are working and kids can't go because they're in school. So the other idea is maybe, and either one could work, but maybe launch on Thursday with something at the museum, and then have like a festival on Sunday, which is the free.
It's
the
also the
second
second
Sunday,
Sunday.
so
Right,
the
and the
museum's
museum
open.
is free, so.
Right.
Or if that space is big enough, but still, I think we need to close the street. Have it on that, because now, since we were over there, Al and I, on Monday, they've now leveled that lot.
Yes.
'Cause it
yes,
wasn't-
and they keep moving the dirt around,
Yeah, I know.
the big pile of dirt. I think that we could probably separate out just a proclamation and some maybe display of, or maybe your idea of a map of where people start to
Oh,
put where,
we could
something
launch
like
it
that
night.
could
Yeah.
be launched and then stay up through the weekend. But as far as a festival sort of where there's some participatory things, I don't see any problem with doing it on Sunday.
Yeah.
And again, it was apparently very successful when the museum, actually it was Palm Springs Life, hosted this festival to do with the Warhol show. And it was sort of fun to come down and see that it was like Christo had been here and wrapped everything in pink.
Yeah, that was the pink idea. It gave us, it gave everybody here an idea with the
Yeah.
pink thing, was wrapping that whole space.
Right, and I think we could just have, a launch on the 30th year and Arts and Humanities Month, and maybe we'll do it at 5 o'clock, because it is a day when there would ordinarily be an Arts Commission meeting. We could adjourn to doing
Oh,
that.
Okay, well, that would be cool. That
Yeah.
would be a nice meeting.
Yeah.
And perhaps something to consider with the launch aspect of it is to play up our hashtag Imagine Art Here, sort of going forward, because we're celebrating the history and then our forward direction with that, sort of
And it
move
sort of,
that into some sort of.
sort of
larger-
sounds like anything on the Virgin site would just be getting going in
Yeah, it might be
October.
like perfect timing, actually.
Mhm.
So the first part here is this Art is Here street party, which could be any time.
Mhm.
So then we met with the museum. As a, a preliminary meeting with the museum. And so on your calendar, it includes the dates that, and they might change, but these are the dates the museum originally gave us for open activities to do with them. And so we kind of met, so we talked about doing this whole year celebration, and basically there are multiple bullet points on every month, but it doesn't mean each bullet point has to be done, but it's somewhat the same amount of stuff that we've done this year. But celebrate this whole year and then wrap up the year. May 16th, we have the opportunity to use the museum, and I talked to Melissa about doing a lecture there on public art. So that could kind of bookend our year. She was really super into that idea. She's going to go follow up with everybody from our museum. And then maybe the idea of having moving a piece of art somewhere in the city, we could finish the year like that. I met with Kate Anderson from who's the head of PR at the Tribe, and she invited us to participate in their Kiwet in November. So that's an event that's already up it will be their second one, and it was a huge success, so they're gonna do it again. They're already planning it again. So she thought that would be a really cool, easy way of them participating with us and us participating with them. We just have to create some kind of hook for that. So the hook for that could be piggybacking off of the museum, playing the Porfirio Gutierrez movie. He's a weaver, and so maybe we could incorporate a demo with him, something like that. He's going to be here for the month, a lot of the month of November, doing programming for the museum for their Unsettled show, and I've met him up at Cabot's. He's amazing. He's really great at talking about his craft, and he's from the Zapotec tribe in Mexico, and they're the last family in that tribe that still gathers all of their dyeing material naturally from native plants and other minerals and things like that. So they gather everything in Mexico, and he's actually based in Oxnard, so.
Tracy, can I think in the interest of time, maybe
Sorry.
not go through the whole year, but I love that you have got the beginnings of a program for each month, and also that you have this preliminary budget request, which is really helpful, in the next month or two as we take the budget that gets passed by the council and then break it down into what we're planning to do. But
So just beginning and end, so.
yeah, no, I think it's amazing. Does anyone else have just a thought they would like to express about whether to do this on a Thursday night or a Sunday?
Yeah.
Um,
I do.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning definitely more towards the Sunday thing. Originally, I think it was the context of when we're talking about the Thursday night, it was like piggybacking on a night that we already have and not wanting to overextend ourselves, right, with setting up something else. But just based on the feedback that you've gotten and that we've heard from others about how Village Fest, and it seems to, we had envisioned it as sort of complementing Village Fest, but apparently it seems like it's being more viewed as like competition or something. I don't know. So yeah, I'm totally comfortable with moving it to the Sunday. I do like the fact that it's also the second Sunday, that it sort of coincides with the program that's already existing. So, but again, I love all the ideas. I love the chalk
t-shirts.
thing, T-shirts, the windmills. The only other thing I just want to make that little plug of, like we talked about before, of like with our 30th anniversary, like trying to create events based on the collection, like highlighting the collection, like, so we had talked about making T-shirts with the artworks on it.
Yeah, so that's on there as the oldies but goodies. And then the other way is to do this map that will have all of the collection on it. So people will be able, even stuff that's in storage, so people will be able to see it, know about it, tell us where they want to put it.
It'd be kind of fun to, have it be magnets or something.
Yeah.
When they had one of the planning sessions for the downtown park, they had pieces, you could move, the amphitheater and the Maryland statue or whatever. But something like this, with pictures of the current art where it goes, but also, like ideas for where else to put things. It could be a lot of fun. Maybe we can get something made. And again, if this is a year-long project, then maybe it stays around
Yeah, I thought we could take it to every single thing. And I talked to Sarah Schneiderman about it, and she does all these felt projects as like a big felt piece that you almost would roll up, and then you'd take it to your next event.
That's a good idea, because you could Velcro things on.
Yeah, and
whatever.
then you'd have all the cutouts of all the little sculptures, and then things that are blank that people can make their own sculpture, like what they think. So the whole thing is like art is here, and what does public art mean to you? So by the end of the year, we have this, non-scientific study.
Right.
And then we could do Melanie's idea of doing a survey that we send out to the whole city, I think is a great idea too. So maybe, have that done by May and, have a report on that.
Well, and I think this leads directly into Commissioner Brenner's report on this public outreach that we're trying to build up so that by the time we do the 30th year, we can get a lot of public input. And so if
Can I
if
just, I
that's-
just want to
if-
get
yeah.
impact, so is everyone else?
I would
wanna
like to
get-
make a comment on this quickly before
Yeah.
we move on. The question, and then this is directed at staff, can we reach out for sponsorships? And what is the situation with city getting sponsors? I look at this and I say, this is all great, who's gonna produce it? Which means either your budget, I think, is low, that we're gonna need help to produce some of this stuff, so I would say, really think about what you're gonna need to make this work. And then secondly, can we reach out to private business for sponsorship to help fund this?
That was my.
Our ordinance provides for donations to a fund to like do educational programs or whatever. I mean, it clearly says the development fees that come in can be spent for these kinds of things. But the commission may do other programs, educational programs and things with donations. So I think if as long as it was
Well,
not so much a sponsorship as
But
a
it's
donation.
Because a sponsorship to me is Joe's Coffee.
Yeah,
Right,
and I
on the
don't know
poster.
that we
Yeah.
could do that, but we certainly are, and I don't know if we've ever had any in the past, but it specifically says in our ordinance that we can accept donations for
I don't know if
programs.
this directly answers your question, but the city council will be considering the Love Fund, which will be contributions for any city department, any city function that any outsiders would like to make towards the city. It could go towards commission work. And so the council will be taking a look at that, I believe, at the upcoming meeting.
Oh, good. Okay, well,
Do we
that's-
know whether
But
or
again,
not we
that's
can-
not going to be a sponsorship, right? I mean, something like Joe's Coffee on the poster, that's like never going to fly.
That's a good question. I think
it?
that would probably be discussed at the meeting.
Okay.
So,
Then-
and who knows what direction it'll go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can watch it on your computer or on TV if you don't
As
want
I
to go.
obviously do all the time.
Right. It's a good way to know what's going on without having to come down here.
Madam Chairman, I'd just like to say that Tracy has put a lot into this, and
Yeah, great work.
thank you.
Yes, and I believe you're on the committee.
Yes.
And
we
you
both
have too.
We both have.
Yes.
She's the chairperson. We're wanting to connect with the school system to generate support and engagement, and with Louisa Castrodell, if I pronounced her name correctly. And I know Jen has an inside, so that's important to get involved. So look forward to that meeting with Louisa.
Very good. Okay, so,
I just want to, is everyone, so I just want to, if we're going to keep going, are we going to think of this as a Sunday, that we're going to think of it as a Sunday event, not the Thursday, the 11th event?
I'll reach out to and ask about closing the street on
okay,
Sunday.
but I think it sounds like the consensus is that in order to have a festival that, spills
Closing
into
the
the street,
street, all that stuff,
that
right.
Sunday would be fine. And then, October 11th is sort of arbitrary. October is National Arts and Humanities Month, so it seemed like a good time to do it.
Yes.
But it could even be just on Sunday. We haven't really committed to what day we're going to celebrate this.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
And-
we are on the calendar at the museum for the 11th, so that date's been held for
Okay.
us if we want it. so.
Well, and I think we should do something. Last year, the city council did a proclamation, and the mayor came and read it at the museum. So
That was really nice.
Yeah.
With the Noah Montes show.
Right.
It was like a great day.
Right.
I thought it was fabulous.
And he's so supportive, and so, that's, okay, well, keep planning, and if
Thank
there's
you.
anything
It's an
that...
enormous amount of work.
The budget should be.
I don't know, but, but just, one of the things, I don't like surprises, so I would rather you come and ask for more and then us say, no, let's cut back. But think big, think about everything, making sure that it is staffed and that we can produce it. And you're like, oh, this is great, this is $200,000. Okay, that's not happening. We're not doing the Gucci fireworks or whatever and work down that way. But, yeah, think big and then we'll figure out what we can do.
Okay, and so we'll put that on next month's agenda also to get a little more specific, and you can, and again, we don't have, we agreed that we would like to have the schedule for next year determined before,
Next year.
before next year, before the summer. And so all of that, having the dates is probably enough. We don't need to have all the details. So, but I think it's a great start to have.
Okay, cool.
We're way ahead of usual. Okay, Commissioner Brenner.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Madalena Garza, who is joining us today, to come up and, here, let me pass these around. And Jen, I
We're
think
going
you
to
have.
share, just because there's,
Yeah.
and Jen has
Okay.
it on the. I don't know if all of you have met.
I think everyone here has met Madalena at this point. I hope so.
She wants everyone to be, interviewed.
Yes,
So
she's
she
working.
hasn't gotten you
We
yet.
got scheduled, so she'll be talking to all of you about that. So, Tom, what you missed last meeting was me trying to stumble through numbers and analytics and things like that in my very poor way. So I thought it was a great time to bring Madalena back to kind of talk through what is going on. I'm going to turn it over here after making the comment of just as an observer, seeing the amount of activity going on a regular basis with really great content just makes me proud to be a part of this. So thank you so much for that, and thank you to all the commission for their support in getting to this place. And with that, I will turn it over to you to talk about just exactly what we've done over the last few months.
Thank you. Should I introduce myself and spell my name?
I think we've.
I'm Madalena Garza, MADALINA GARZA. And, well, I'm so excited to hear about the anniversary. Okay, so as you all know, we started from zero with our social media. And during the last period, I'll talk about the last period from April, the 1st of April, April 10 to May 10, and the changes that we've seen. In this last month, we've had an Instagram growth in followers of 45.8%, so that's actually great. And on Facebook, on this last period, of 22%. We had a larger percent during March, between March and April, and that reflects on the interests and the demographics of Facebook and Instagram. From what we've seen on the analytics, the most and the post that gets more yes, I'm sorry, from the posts that get more likes, we see that on Facebook, people are more interested on events and event recaps and photos of what happened at the events, and on videos. And so obviously we have less events, we have less content of that kind, so our percentage of followers, or the amount of followers that we gain during that period, goes down. But and on Instagram, what we've seen is that the art installations, very colorful images, and people interacting with art, having faces on the photos, and announcing free events is what get us more interaction with the users. So the goal for this month is to go beyond all the organic reach that we've had so far, and focus on producing the highest quality content based on the interests that we've already seen developing on social media, and yes, to increase the engagement. To triple the amount of video content that we have, which we'll do with the interviews with the commissioners, with interviews with the artists. Right now we have the project with Michael Bernberg and the Jump for Joy Mural that we're actually recording the video tomorrow. And the interview with Sofia Enriquez. She will talk about the collaboration with the museum and the Art Commission. So those are just a few of the videos that we will include. And we'll also get better quality images to use on social media of the art that we already have on the parks and on display. So from what I can have from the website right now, the quality is not the best. So I think we'll start. Anne was talking about taking photos of all the art during the summer. So I think that will really help.
I like the one you did of Sonny Bono with a person sitting there. I don't know if you saw it, but I thought, just as she goes around, it would be fun to have photos of all the art, maybe with some people in it. It just again reminds people of what there is. So.
I love the squiggle with the person. That might have been someone else's photo, but it really makes it come alive.
Yeah.
Yes, that's part of the user-generated content. So I look on Instagram and on Facebook for people that are using our hashtags or hashtags that like Palm Springs or downtown Palm Springs that they don't know that the account exists, and then we share their posts and their images. Mm-hmm. But that shows people that there is being interaction with the art.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
So, well, and of course, another strategy we'll start using is boosting and promoting posts. That's something that we haven't done before, and will really raise our reach. And using new hashtags. At the end, I don't know if you have it printed, but at the end we have a page with different hashtags that we've used and reactions that they provoked. Mm-hmm. So, of course, if we bury the hashtags and we reach other segments of the population, it will be helpful for us.
Well, and I've noticed that you post events with, what's it called? I Love Palm Springs. There's all these different user groups that sort of track what's going on downtown, and so then it picks up some new people. I think the Isabel sculpture, though, had the most people liking it and commenting of just about anything else. And people are still going, oh my God, it's just wonderful. So.
Yes, there's a lot of photos online of Isabel. And on the papers, you also have the most successful posts in case you're curious and want to know which ones are the ones that got more likes on both Facebook and Instagram. And yes.
Okay. You can see.
We could go into more detail with the graphics, but I tried to make it a little.
Well,
louder.
I want to thank you. So what we tasked you with when we first brought you on board was to give us that baseline in analytics, so we knew where we were and we knew where we wanted to go. We've set some goals. I'm really happy with them. What I would like to see going forward is in our subcommittee, which I will admit I did not have a subcommittee meeting this month. But to get together and set those goals to go forward, so where we're at whatever we did last time, how can we boost that? And to be able to do that and to grow our numbers, the other thing that I would like is your guidance to us as commissioners of how we can be effective social media ambassadors. Because I have to admit, I don't really know, and I put hashtags in, but I'm not quite sure what. So I think that piece of it, to really utilize all of us, which I see as a part of our role here, to do that much more outreach, set ourselves goals of, okay, well, we grew by 22% this month. Let's make a goal of, we want to grow by 35% next month, and how do we do that? So those are the things that I'd like to see moving forward. And to do that, I would like to make a motion to extend Madalena's contract for 6 months, to take her to November, I think that takes us.
And through this celebration.
And through this opening and celebration of the 30th anniversary. So, do I have a second? Yeah.
This is a subcommittee report.
Oh, so we can't do
so
it.
You can't make a motion here. It would
Okay.
have to go on
Onto the next month's agenda?
Yep,
Okay,
we'll put it under
Okay.
unfinished business.
okay, very
Okay,
good.
Then that motion, we'll
Yes.
put that on the,
And so in the meantime, I know that Commissioner Pritchard and I have scheduled time with Madalena to do our interview. And I'm hoping we can also use that time for you to do training for me on how I can be a more effective social media commissioner. And I would urge all the rest of you to make that time to meet with Madalena for your interview. And I'm sure you guys are all fabulous already at it, but.
Just even one thing that would be really helpful, because I'm not on social media, but I mean, just if you gave us like a list of which ones to use, right? You know,
Right.
that would be effective. That we, you know, so just give it email, whatever, that list, and then if we are posting, at least we know what to put on it, right?
Right.
Which hashtags and stuff like that, or you know anything. I know hashtags are Instagram.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
On both.
And then Twitter is
also
at
hashtags, yeah.
or whatever. Oh, they
But
also use hashtags.
What you could do is
What
you
do they use on Facebook?
Tags and hashtags.
Tags and
both.
hashtags,
That's the
right?
man
You
who
could-
does not use social media.
Right.
Exactly.
You
So
could
just
tag
something like that,
the
like you can
commissioners
say, right.
on the posts, and then it would show up on our
On
our
your
feed.
accounts,
You
right.
get to
Absolutely.
just say
I'd
whether
love
you
to
wanted to.
explain whoever
Yeah.
wants to know more. And I think it would be a great help to just to reach more people.
Mhm.
Because every single one of you have
I've got
circle on social
647
media.
friends, girl.
That's right, exactly.
And actually, Commissioner Merrigan does a great job on
Yes.
social media already.
Yes.
She likes and shares and
Yes.
tag and posts. So yes.
Yes. And I
One
think
less-
We're like tag teaming.
Yes, and, you know, to reach out to former Commissioner Rutan, who is the queen of,
Of
she's
Yes.
so
Facebook,
good at that.
She does. She
Yeah.
Social
set
media
herself
maven.
to doing a collage a day for the entire year, and she posts them every day on
day.
Facebook. And
That's
so far,
fabulous.
she's about 200 days into this. It's just
Yes.
quite something. I think, though, even if we can't vote on it formally, we should. The minutes should show that this subcommittee has recommended that we keep this effort going through the 30th anniversary, and that we try to build to that being really effective. And we can formally vote next time, but that is the recommendation of the subcommittee. Does anyone have any other thoughts on how we can do more with social media?
I'd like to, I think I know the answer to the question, but I'd like to see where we were a year ago as it relates to social media. For example, if you're with us next year, which I hope you are, you know, that we can compare. Or if we have those stats from last year, I'm sure it's
But
better. I know it's
we
better.
didn't have these
I know.
accounts,
Right.
so
But I think, you know, it would help to find out where we were a year ago this time as it relates to social media? And I said, I think I know the answer to that. It just helps.
Okay,
Okay.
yes, I can see, well, the Instagram account is a new account.
I'm
so
sorry?
The
Yes.
Is it working?
Yes.
The Instagram account was created 3 months ago, or when we started.
Mhm.
So we don't have further stats
But
for
the
that one. And
the
for Facebook,
okay.
I can check the
Yes.
information that is available there and
Great.
give you the information.
Thank you.
And for the official Facebook, probably Ms. Henning could give you a
Right.
little more.
Do you
Great,
remember
thank
what
you.
date that started? The,
I do not. I'd have to go back.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just had a question. So in terms of boosting and stuff, I know that costs money, right? So I know there's not an advertising line in here. So is that something that we've done or?
No, I believe all of that's covered in her contract, so but going forward, I already do that. So whenever I do post an event on the official city page,
Right.
then I go ahead, there's certain ones that I do boost, and it is so inexpensive.
Yes,
Right.
it's very.
Literally $10 or less.
Yeah, no, I understand. Okay.
So, and then I don't
But so we're not
remember-
worried about that as a budget item.
It's such a
Yeah,
nominal
well, it's-
amount for the city's account.
will-
So it would be something that she would be covered under her contract.
It's fun. We,
Okay.
we, I mean, it is really getting into, it's very small amounts, and,
Okay. I
but
just
I
wanted to make
think,
sure it was
I think
covered.
the goal is to have hundreds of followers by October. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the number is, and however we get there, I think is really up to the subcommittee to
Well,
work on this.
So, yes, when I come back next month to vote on this, we will have those details and we will have a budget, and that budget will include money in there for boosting that is outside of just because the realm of her contract does not include that at this time. So I don't want her to be coming out of pocket for something that's not included. So that's something that we will work out and bring to the commission for next month
Great.
to vote on.
Right.
And also,
It would be helpful just in terms of planning. This is not a vote, but a sense of the meeting about continuing this social media program through the 30th anniversary. Can I say that we, in fact, are all interested in doing that, and we'll work out the details. Okay.
I have one last
Yes.
question. Are we able, I think we are able to gauge, for example, who comes to our events as it relates to a Facebook post? I think I've seen interested going. You know, it would be nice to have some of those stats, for me
Perfect.
at least.
Okay.
To make sure we're, you know,
Okay.
engaging and getting audiences to come out to our events.
Yes, of course. I
Know
could
some of those
get some
stats.
information for that. Some events we don't host on Facebook. For example, the Jump for Joy mural dedication, but we can see how many people clicked our post, how many.
Right.
Yes.
Which is great.
So the short answer is yes.
Very good. All
Can I
right.
ask one
And
question?
Yes.
I would take you up on your idea of meeting with people on how to better share for our commission. That would be awesome. And then in regards to that, brainstorming also about like a real consistent message throughout the whole year next year for the 30th, what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like a plan, immediate.
perhaps,
Yes.
perhaps a good way to start would be for Madalena to meet with the 30th anniversary subcommittee, so that, you know, going over the ideas that you have and then hearing from her what's the best way to boost those. And then we can get, some of the other things are, you know, if there's an actual event, like the dedication of a mural, it's a little easier to tell how you're doing. But while you're in these beginning stages of planning a whole year's worth, I think that would be very helpful to, you know, get some suggestions of like when you start publicizing this. And we did start throwing out the idea of Imagine Art here. And we're getting some looks at that. And maybe, we should, like after this meeting, we should have another one about, plans are afoot for the 30th anniversary. We can start, especially if we decide that it is on Sunday, we can start giving the date.
Cool.
That's great. Well, thank
great.
you.
Great, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Now, we mentioned this earlier, but the Downtown Park Ad Hoc Committee of the city, Commissioner Pritchard and I are representing the Public Arts Commission, and we have set up a meeting with the park designers, Rios Clemente Hale, next Monday, the 14th, in their plans, they showed a couple of places where they thought public art could go, but they also think it should be a sound sculpture. So we would like to explore some more ideas and get into their plan before they start building that there's either one or more pieces of art in the park, and we will also explore if they really don't have any plans for the art park, do they mind if we do? So we'll know, by next month we'll know lots more. I just have two, this could be Commissioner comments or requests, but I do want to point out that 3 of the commissioners' terms are expiring on June 30th. That's Commissioner Yanni, Commissioner Murray, and Commissioner Gladstone. And the city is currently taking applications. You're all eligible to be reappointed, but you do have to submit the form, assuming that you would like to remain on the commission. And if not, right, right. I know, our feelings will be hurt, but it's understandable. And the other thing I would like to get some sense of is whether we would have a quorum if we meet in July. I will not be here. Commissioner Yanni will not be here. I'll be here.
So Mara, we have to find out from Mara.
We need
4.
4 to have a quorum.
The question is if Mara is available.
Yeah.
Right. And whether there's pressing business in July. The only month that we're not supposed to meet is in August. But last year we didn't meet in July just because we'd sort of wrapped things up in June. And to the extent that we can. And then the fiscal year ends June 30th. And so July is sort of the beginning of the next fiscal year, but last year our first meeting of the year was September. But we'll find out if Commissioner Gladstone will be here. And, someone else, it just happens that the 2 of us won't be here, so someone else would have to. Okay. Then perhaps, I don't know, does anyone have an opinion on if there were only 4 people, do you want to try to meet? It will be difficult to sort of.
My only reason of thinking that we might need to meet, one, is if there's any kind of mural business, that there's something that we need to do to move things forward. Secondly, October is not very far away, and we are talking about doing an event in October. And granted, not here, but I'm sure there are things that maybe need to be at least addressed during that time. So I'm thinking we might need, and it might not need to be a full 2 hours, and maybe it's just, but if Commissioner Gladstone's not available, it's a moot point.
Right.
Right.
But I would agree that we should try to put that as a likely possibility, just to keep pieces together with that. With
Okay.
the
We'll have to find out about Commissioner Gladstone, but I think it.
We never meet in August.
Yeah. Neither
It's
does
never-
the city
none of the
council.
commissions meet
Yeah,
in
it's
August.
So July
Yeah.
14th is the date, and September, I think it's September 14th also is the,
First one.
is that right? Is that the Thursday?
On the
13.
13th.
September 13th. That was my father's birthday. He was born on Friday the 13th, 1913. Which always seemed. Okay, are there any other comments or requests by commissioners about things to put on the next agenda?
Chairman, I'd like to put on the agenda the homeless, I'd like to make a homeless art report at our next meeting.
Great.
Project, homeless project.
Okay. And that would be, I think, under the, I don't know which.
Do you want to do a subcommittee report?
Yes, subcommittee. Russell and I met, and we're meeting next week with a few people, and looking forward to moving forward with a mural, with a residency program, and also a sculpture. So we should have a report by the
Okay.
next meeting. Yeah.
That should
And
be.
we'll need $20,000.
You haven't even
You
met
mean
yet,
not-
and you
not
know that.
240? Right.
Anyone else for something for next?
I have nothing for next time. My comment is just, I'm really excited about the 30th anniversary. And again, thank you for all the work you guys have been doing on that. I'm really excited about the downtown projects. I just want to remind us, right, not to, we've talked so much about not overextending ourselves, right?
Right.
So again, just kind of keep those things in mind as we're thinking about next year and stuff like that, you know, in terms of programs and events and exhibitions and all these things that we've done.
Right.
So I think we might have to make some decisions, you know, about what we want to continue
Right.
with and not.
But,
And I'd like, you know, we should be having those discussions pretty soon, right? But otherwise, I'm really excited about everything. And then also just to something, you know, again, we spent a lot of time focusing on downtown, and I feel like I'm getting feedback from people that they feel that other parts of the city are a little neglected. So just some, you know, again, remind ourselves that we should focus on other areas of the city as well.
I
as
liked,
those opportunities should arise, whatever.
I liked Commissioner Merrigan's thought of having some kind of a map and a way for people to say where they think that something's missing.
That'd be great.
You know, and plus, if we put all these things on a map, you sort of will get a sense of how they're spread out. We had a map, but we actually ran out of them, right, over the years.
Yeah, we still have
some.
plenty of maps.
I did ask at the visitor center and the museum, and they both said that they had run out.
Okay.
So if we could put some, that would be great. I thought we were all out of them altogether. But we've talked also, some of the pieces have moved, so we would need a new map. And the California Desert Arts Council is still hoping to do an app that you could identify artworks with, and we just need to send our list of art and photographs to them, and they will incorporate it into their app, which, again, I think, Commissioner Yanni, to what you said about not getting overwhelmed, I think partnering with other groups is the way to be able to do this. For example, having the museum take a lot of the responsibility for programs that we are co-sponsoring with our funding of the museum, but, you know, they take care of all the details. So there's lots of other groups that we do things with. And it's just, the 30th anniversary is kind of an umbrella over a lot of things. But I do like the T-shirt idea with the, you know, like squiggles on them. John Clements. Okay, if there's no other comments, anything from the director? And
Nothing to report, thank you.
okay,
And I have an announcement. I would like to remind everyone that on Monday, from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. at the Convention Center. Boards and commission training on public integrity, ordinance, Brown Act, and meeting management is being held. Light lunch will be served. Jay and I will be there, and we'll plan to see all of you there.
If you're available, I'm going, but, you know, it's, I know it's a difficult time in the middle of the day for people who are working. Is that a big day for you?
Right.
Oh,
right.
excellent, excellent.
Is that, okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this Public Arts
Okay.
Commission to our next regular meeting, Thursday, June 14th at 4 p.m. at City Hall in the large conference room on Canyon Way in Palm Springs.
I'll second that motion.
Thank
Any
you.
objections? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.